While Indiana basketball is working extremely hard to land the top players in 2025, are they taking the lead in 2026?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Ultimate GM, Ultimate College Football HC. It's a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Begin your coaching legacy today. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, whether you're on audio, whether you're watching on the YouTube video. Thank you guys so much. We're growing, okay? And more of you are coming back each and every day, and I love that. I really, really do. So thank you for being here, and I appreciate all of your support. Well, we've talked so much about Indiana basketball and how they have just put in the work for 2025. And they've been doing it for years, right, in high school recruiting with the Braylon Mullins and Jalen Harrelson and Trent Sisley and now Eric Reeby and Michael Brown and even guys that have committed elsewhere, right? Indiana has put in the work for 2025. And my message on that has been, don't give up. Don't give in. Now you have to push. But what I love about this staff and what I love about this program right now is we understand, okay, 2025 is very important for us, yes, but so is 2026. So is the future of this program beyond what next year brings. And this staff is already going out and seeing and talking with big-time 2026 recruits. Remember how the fall recruiting period is open? Yeah, they're already seeing these guys. They're bringing them on campus. They're going to see them for Overtime Elite. They're doing everything they need to do to be successful long-term. Does it mean that these guys are going to end up playing at Indiana? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. We know how recruiting is nowadays. It's such a crapshoot that we just have no idea. Predictions are harder than they've ever been before in terms of where you think a recruit is going to go. But you can have a pretty good idea based off of the early action by a program and the coaches in that program. And Indiana is doing that in 2026. And a couple of guys I want to highlight today, Aidan Chronister and Taylen Kinney. We'll start with Aidan Chronister, okay? Top 25 player in the 2026 class. He's a top 25 player in the country, and the Hoosiers are all over him. He is a 6'7", 170-pound shooting guard. Let me say that again. He is 6'7", 170 pounds, and he's listed as a shooting guard. And if you watch him play, yeah, he can play shooting guard. I think he'll end up playing a lot of forward when he gets to college because of his size, if he were to put on a little bit more, beef, if you will. But the dude can play. He is over-the-top athletic. He can shoot. He can score. He really likes to pass the basketball, which is fascinating to me. And he's got some quotes where he's talked about the Indiana offense and how everybody's always moving, or supposed to be anyway. And it really, it kind of feeds into his game a little bit because he likes to facilitate. He likes to get rid of the basketball, and not maybe get rid of it, but get it to other players on his team. He likes to do that. Do you know how rare that is in 2024, 2025, and beyond? Like, that's insane to see a guy who openly admits, yeah, I like to pass the basketball. That's what Chronister is, okay? Some of the schools you need to know about that are on his current offer list, because Indiana did offer him a scholarship. He was on campus this past weekend with Jalen Harrelson. I know that very much overshadowed a lot of things, but he was on campus this past weekend, and he got to see Indiana football win 1-0, or I guess 1-3 technically, and he loved it. He absolutely loved his visit to Indiana. His dad was with him and felt the exact same way. And some of the schools that are on his offer list: Arkansas, Creighton, Iowa. Nothing crazy right now. And some of you may say, well, yeah, it's not till 2026. People are worried about 2025. That's right. You're correct. But look at what Indiana's doing. They've done it again, right? They've gone out and found high-level players, high-ranked players that, as of right now, seem to be flying under the radar. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Does that sound like somebody that we've talked a ton about on this show for 2025? Yeah, it sounds like Braylon Mullins, right? It sounds like somebody who was overlooked, overshadowed, shot up the rankings, and then everybody and their mom decided to go and offer the guy. I think with Chronister, it's a little bit different because he's already ranked really high. If you remember, with Braylon, he was ranked pretty low. He was in the top 100, but he was around the 70, 60 mark, and then boom, he shot up real quick, right? And so this is a little bit different, but for Chronister, the Hoosiers are on him, and he loves Indiana. He's been here several times, and he was here this weekend. He's from Wichita, Kansas, class of 2026, the number 1 player from the state of Kansas, and a top 25 player overall. Very excited about him. I think there's a lot to be pumped up about with Aidan Chronister. The other guy I want to mention is somebody that the Hoosiers went and saw once the recruiting period opened in this fall window. Taylen Kinney, the overtime elite standout point guard from Atlanta, Georgia, 4-star, top 26, so we'll say top 30 player in the 2025 class. He's literally the guy ranked below Chronister, who we just mentioned, okay? Ranked number 26 according to 247, 4-star, number 3 out of Georgia, number 5 point guard in the class, 6 foot tall, 160 pounds at the point guard position. And some of the schools on his list, Indiana, of course, Illinois, Cincinnati, looks like Tennessee, Texas, Xavier, like there's some schools, Louisville, Kentucky, like there's some big name schools that have offered him already. And the Hoosiers went to see him over this past week when the recruiting window opened. And if you watch Taylen Kinney play, the guy's a superstar. I mean, he's going to be, I compare him a lot to Michael Brown Jr., who we talk about in the 2025 class, just a freak athlete, super quick, can orchestrate, really run an offense. He can score at will. Haven't seen a ton of his shooting, I'll be completely honest with you, but just in terms of getting to the rack, scoring, going up and down the floor, he's lightning quick. I think he's a really, really good addition if the Hoosiers can make that happen. But where I'm going with all of this is Indiana's constantly working. Sure, they've got a lot to do in 2025 to lock all that up, but they're already making progress in 2026. And you can make the argument that they're taking the lead with some of these guys in 2026. Time will tell. Yes, time will tell if all of this pays off or not, whether this staff survives, right, because of this season, or if they get the recruits, or if they hang around, whatever the case may be. But they're doing the early work right now, and I promise you it will pay off in the end. But there's something that we need to talk about that can affect this 2026 class and all the other classes beyond. How does 2025 impact the future? And I'm talking 2024 into the 2025 season. We've got that coming up for you next, right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Ultimate Football HC. Hey, Locked On Hoosiers fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're all going to love just as much as I do, Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staffs to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's my favorite part. I really do love this game, okay? I play it every day. And the fact that I can play it on an airplane if you want to, I play it at the office, I play it at night when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. you're responsible for calling all of the offensive plays during the game. So it's up to you whether you guys are successful or not, all right? Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. And, of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Hoosiers fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in your app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to try and find the right one. Game Time is my go-to ticketing app for any event. I use it. My family uses it. My friends use it. I've deleted all the other apps because I don't need them anymore because I have the Game Time app. Some of my favorite things about the Game Time app is the all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. All right. So be sure when you download Game Time, or if you haven't already, toggle that feature, the all-in pricing, and you'll see your price upfront with no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, okay, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back to Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here again. Shout out to all of my everydayers. I see you, I hear you, and as I always tell you, I really, really do appreciate you. A reminder that Locked On Hoosiers and all of the shows across the Locked On Podcast Network are free to you every single day. So if you're looking for a way to support this show, if you're on the YouTube side, there's a few things you can do for me, okay? Like the video. That's the first one. That's the easiest one. Like the video for me, okay? Comment down below your thoughts on Indiana basketball recruiting for 2025. Are you impressed with what they're doing in 2026? I want to hear from you in the comments. And then the best way to help us out, click on the Locked On Hoosiers logo and hit subscribe to the channel, okay? It takes 2 taps. You become an everydayer that way, and then you'll be notified when a new episode goes live. So do those things for me, and I really, really do appreciate it. Well, we have seen all of the work that this program, Indiana, that we're putting into 2025 and we're putting into 2026. And heck, there's 2027 recruits that we could talk about if we wanted to. But we have to remember what all of this relies on right now. And it's this upcoming basketball season. The 2024-2025 season is crucial for the future of Indiana basketball, especially on the recruiting side of things. Because you look at what happened a year ago, okay? You bring in one high school recruit. You did that the year before as well. You also come in and you missed the tournament last year in ugly fashion. Ugly fashion. You missed the NCAA tournament, which we all understand that's not acceptable here, okay? And so you're trying to make progress in 2025 in recruiting and land a really, really good class and then take the lead in 2026 with some of these guys like Chronister and with Kinney. But so many of these players want to see proof of concept, right? They want to see, okay, maybe 23-24 was a fluke. Maybe Mike Woodson and his staff are going to turn it around. Maybe they just need a few extra good players to get things off the ground. Okay, let's say they do. Let's say that Indiana has a good year this year, especially early. We're going to get to that in a second. But just the whole year, it's a good year. You make the tournament, and let's say you at least make a run to the Sweet 16. Okay, yeah, recruits are going to look at it and say, it can be done in Bloomington. And you'll probably have a pretty sizable lead with some of the kids in 2026. But here's the problem for the 2025 class. You don't have that much time. You can't wait until March to prove yourself for some of these kids. They want to see right now. They want to see right now what you're going to do. And we've had these conversations about how so many of these kids want to commit before their senior season starts. Some of them will, and some of them won't. But the ones that won't are going to hang around and just see if Indiana's going to be legit. Can Indiana be a good basketball team early and often in this coming up season for 24 and 25? If you come out swinging and you beat the teams you're supposed to, and you have a good showing in your non-conference tournament, then yeah, you have a good chance to probably land a recruit that you weren't going to get. But if you come out and struggle and you look bad in your early non-con games like we did a year ago, and you struggle with a South Carolina and you go 0 for 3 in a tournament and you just don't look good doing it, yeah, you're not going to be up at the top in 25. You're going to lose out on big recruits who are hanging around to make their decision. That's why 2024 and 2025, this upcoming season, is so crucial to this future of this program. You could say that about every year, sure. But I'm talking this year in particular because of how last year ended and how we've already made progress and we have so much momentum going right now in recruiting. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. But a mediocre season will wipe it out completely. And there are some of you that will argue, and I don't know if you're wrong or not. Some of you will argue that this season is Mike Woodson's last, could be his last. Some of you may argue that this year has so much pressure on it because if he doesn't win now, he might never win at Indiana. I think that's fair. This is his most talented roster since he's been here in a short time. I believe that. If you don't win now or show that you're going to win in the future, yeah, you had people calling for his job last year, at the end of last year, for not making the NCAA tournament. If that happens again, he's gone, I think. I think if you miss the tournament this year, you're done. But I think this year, you just have to have a solid year, have an impressive year, make the tournament, make a run, beat some teams, and then let's move forward. You can move forward with Mike Woodson and this staff. I think you could satisfy the fan base and you could satisfy the recruits that you're going after because they just want to see success, man. They want to see that this is a place they can come and be successful. This is a place that they can bring their talents and compete for championships and also get to the next level. That's why this upcoming season is so important. One of the most important seasons in the history of Indiana basketball. And that's why I'm excited, though. Does that not get you fired up? Because if everything goes well, yeah, things are going to be great. And what if is my favorite question. You guys know this. But if it doesn't, then yeah, doom and gloom. Be ready for it. It's going to be here a lot on this show. But we're making the right strides in 25. You got to close the door on those. And when you look at the 2026 class, I think it all relies on how this upcoming basketball season goes down in Bloomington. Well, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, do Curt Cignetti and Indiana football, do they have the right mentality after going 2-0 and heading out to Los Angeles to take on UCLA at the Rose Bowl? Are they thinking clearly? We'll talk about that in our final segment coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. How are we not going to talk about FanDuel? Well, we've got something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, all right, $5, and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. I did it this past Sunday. It's phenomenal. I love my NFL Sunday ticket, and FanDuel's trying to hook you up with that, okay? All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So visit FanDuel.com right now. You bet $5, and they're going to give you a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube and YouTube TV. So visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here. I really do appreciate you and your support. Locked On Hoosiers continues to grow. So thank you for showing that love. And look, if you're looking for your second watch today, your second listen after you've gotten through this Locked On Hoosiers episode, I'm going to plug a couple of other Locked On podcasts, okay? First one is Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Does a wonderful job over there, covers the biggest stories, biggest headlines. He's got some hot takes over there too. Go in his YouTube comments for me and talk crap, talk some smack because, hey, believe it or not, he does have Indiana winning this weekend against UCLA, but he's an Oregon guy. So just go in there and tell him that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you. He'll be glad that you're there. He does a great show, and you can check that out every day. It's free to you as well. And then on the basketball side, Isaac and Andy, man, they do a wonderful job. Locked On College Basketball. You see it down there in the corner on the YouTube overlay. Go check them out as well. They're getting you ready for the upcoming 2024 and 2025 basketball season. So Locked On College Football and Locked On College Basketball after, of course, you're done right here at Locked On Hoosiers. Well, does Curt Cignetti and this Indiana football team, after their 2-0 historic win over Western Illinois, right, over a team that's just not very good, over a win over a couple of teams that are not very good, FIU and Western Illinois, do we have the right mentality going on the road to UCLA? I read you some of the quotes on yesterday's show, and Cignetti was impressed with the win. He was impressed by what he saw. Wasn't perfect by any means. But now they open up Big Ten play, does this football team. And we're going out there to the Rose Bowl. Craig Sheeman from Locked On Big Ten and I are counting this as a Rose Bowl appearance, by the way. We're going out there, and the quote that stands out to me from Cignetti, I read it to you on the show yesterday. He says, I don't care if we're playing at the Rose Bowl or playing at a parking lot. This is a business trip for us. I personally love it. I love the mentality. But it's very obvious, and we've seen this millions of times throughout history in sports. This mentality and this mindset goes one of two ways. It either goes really well, and it looks like you were a freaking genius because your team goes in, they play well, they dominate, and they come out on the other side clean. And it's like, wow, that team meant business. They meant it. Good for them. That's impressive, right? Or on the flip side, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and you go in there and get wiped, right? You go in there and get absolutely destroyed. You look ridiculous. Your team plays terrible, and everybody laughs at you because you're a joke. That's how this thing goes. And if you're Indiana, I think that's basically where you stand. And you go into this game against UCLA, who's not a good football team. Let's just get that right. Take the logo off the helmet. They're not a good football team. But you are on the road cross country. You got to fly out there and you deal with a time change and yada, yada, yada. But is this the right way to think for Curt Cignetti and Indiana football? It absolutely is. It absolutely is the right way to think. Because when's the last time, Indiana fans, when's the last time we had a coach that spoke this way? And not just spoke this way, felt this way. That's my big thing with Cignetti. He talks the talk, but from what we can see, he walks the walk. Yeah, we're 2-0 against two terrible teams. I'm not talking about that, kinda. But in practice, and the standards he has, and the things he's had changed already, he's doing both. He's saying it, and he's doing it. And I expect this team to do that on Saturday night at UCLA. I expect this team to go in and play extremely well. I expect a win. I think a lot of you are expecting a win. Vegas is expecting a win. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean they're just going to hand it to you and say, good job, guys. You worked hard. You're locked in. You're focused. Here you go. Here's your win against the Big Ten. No, absolutely not. You still have to do the work and be focused and prepared. And the big thing, you have to execute. But I love having this mindset and mentality to go on the road. It's like, who cares? We'll play anybody. We're Indiana. We're good enough to play with teams like UCLA. Teams like Ohio State are a different story, and that's a story for a later date down the road in the schedule. But you have to have this sort of, I'm not going to say cockiness, but I will say an edge. I think that's the best way to describe it, is this team has a little bit of an edge. And I hope that the players are feeding off the coaching staff and the head coach Cignetti, right? I hope those things are happening here, because if they do, if the players feed off of that, good things can happen. As long as it doesn't escalate to being dirty and things like that, right? And playing out of control, bad penalties, things like that. As long as all of that is controlled, you can be a really well-oiled machine when you go into places like UCLA or when you come home and play other Big Ten teams. Like, this season could go better than people predicted it. And I think it's because of the mindset that this team has, and they get it from their head coach. I love it. I'm curious on what you think, though. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Another one down, man. We're having a lot of fun over here. Thank you so much for being here, making this your first listen, your first watch every single day. If you're on YouTube, again, like the video for me, comment down below your thoughts on today's episode, and then be sure you subscribe. Hit the logo, Locked On Hoosiers, and hit the subscribe button. Takes 2 seconds. 2 taps, 2 seconds. That's it, right? And you become an everydayer, and you'll be known or be notified every time a new episode is posted, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, with another great episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.